name is Jill, and welcome to our masterclass for Level 3, Day 1. As we practice today, we're going to spend a little bit of time focusing on the paths of yoga, the 4 different paths. We're also going to have a pretty strong practice today, so let's go ahead and start first by making a commitment to ourselves that we will make sure that we're listening to our body and honoring our body with this practice, taking any options or modifications that we need as we go through the practice. And as we work through our practice and we start to notice the places where we can make a little bit of a focus shift to start to focus on those 4 paths of yoga. So our 4 paths, the Raja path is the path of meditation, the Karma path, the path of action, the Jnana path, the path of knowledge, and the Bhakti path, the path of devotion. So we'll touch on those as we work through our practice today. And thank you again for sharing your time and sharing your weekend with us in our Level 3 training. So we're going to begin our practice in our mountain pose. We'll find our feet coming to be about hips distance apart. We'll let the arms relax to the sides of the body. A couple of times we'll take the shoulders and roll them back and down. And as we find ourselves coming into a space where we feel balanced and secure, we'll take a couple of deep breaths, letting our toes be soft, but feeling the 4 corners of the feet pressing into the mat. And as we start to make that connection of the feet to the mat, that strong foundation, we're going to start focusing on that lock, our Pada Bandha. And as we press into the feet and feel that lock, we feel the muscles of the body engaged and strong, and we feel grounded, we feel secure in this pose. So we'll find Pada Bandha, we'll find that length in the spine, our dynamic tension. And let's begin to deepen our breath here. As we start to deepen the breath and find our breath in and out through the nose, we begin to quiet the mind. Finding a connection between the breath, the body, and the mind. And right away, as we begin to create that awareness of our body in this space, that idea of creating that awareness can bring us to that Jnana path, that idea of finding that knowledge, the knowledge of self, and that awareness that we create of our body and our practice. So that strong Pada Bandha still through the feet as we begin to move the arms with our breath. We'll find the inhale to take the arms up and overhead. As we exhale, we'll bring the arms back into our mountain pose. And as we start to move with our breath, we find that connection once again, and that connection as we find movement and breath together, we can start to think about that a little bit with our Raja path, the path of meditation. Our moving meditation as we connect breath and movement. Let's change the movement of the arms, bringing the arms in front of the body. We'll start to open on the inhale, expanding through the chest, palms together on the exhale. As we continue to move and breathe, feeling grounded and stable here, we'll take a moment to check in with the essence, reminding ourselves that we're letting go of judgments, letting go of expectations, letting go of competition as we practice today. Honoring our body with this practice, doing our best to be in the present moment. And again, as we focus on the present moment, as we focus on being aware, also that brings us to our Bhakti path, the path of devotion, love for ourselves, as we practice exactly what the body needs today. Let's go ahead and let the arms come back into our mountain pose, a little roll of the shoulders. And then we'll find ourselves moving forward with our warm-up. Let's go ahead and step wide into our plie squat stance for moonflowers and sunflowers. We'll find the inhale to reach the arms up and overhead, and the exhale to come into some moonflowers today. As we begin to flow with our breath, noticing how the body feels, noticing that connection again now with Pada Bandha, and maybe also working just a little bit to find that connection with Mula Bandha here. So using the breath, and as we use the breath, that gentle lifting of the pelvic floor as we move through our moonflowers, that nice strong core strength creation. Let's go ahead and add our hip hinge moving into our sunflowers, letting the arms release, a nice long spine, and then that big inhale to bring us back up. And as we continue to flow with our breath, being mindful of these locks as we introduce them, as we become aware of them today, being mindful of how the body feels, and knowing that our whole practice today, the actual physical practice, our hatha practice, is our path of action, our karma path. So we'll find a few more breaths, noticing again that all paths are somewhat different, but all paths lead us to the same place. We'll take another full breath here, and then let's find ourselves meeting in our five-pointed star. Releasing the hands, we'll step to the front of the mat to come into our mountain pose. A big deep inhale will reach towards the sky, sitting into chair pose as we exhale. And we'll take this flowing chair a few times with our breath, as fast or as slow as feels comfortable for our body. So there's never any need to match anybody else's breath exactly. Listening to our body, practicing our yoga. And then from our chair flow, let's move into our swan dive practice, releasing towards the earth with soft knees, and then reversing the swan dive lifting. We'll flow again with our own breath cycle. And this next time that we come into our forward fold, we'll hold for just a moment, letting the head and neck relax here. A little nod and shake. And then from this forward fold, let's go ahead and soften the knees. We'll place the hands on the mat and let's step back into our down dog. We'll take a nice deep breath, a little pedal of the legs as we come into our first down dog. And then we'll gently release the knees to the mat to come into an all fours position. From all fours, hands under the shoulders, we'll take a couple of times through our cat and cow. And as we continue to move the spine and warm the body, we can start to make these movements just a little bit bigger as we go. But let's start to also notice our hasta bandha here. So as we press into the hands, just like we pressed into the feet in our mountain pose, we feel that strong connection of the hands to the earth, that hands lock, hasta bandha. As we continue to flow through cat and cow, another great place to practice and become aware of Mula Bandha as well. So on that inhale, just a gentle release of Mula Bandha. On the exhale, a gentle engagement. And then from cat and cow, let's go ahead and move into spinal balance. We can take right arm and left leg and start to flow on this one side, elbow coming towards the knee. Or if we choose, we can flow from one side to the next. We'll flow with the breath, whichever option we choose. Continuing to feel that strong hasta bandha, just one hand now, using that dynamic tension and Mula Bandha, a little bit of Uddiyana action, engaging the belly muscles as we feel that strong engagement of the core flowing with the breath. Let's go ahead and switch sides if we haven't done so already. A big inhale to reach, and the exhale to draw towards the center. Continuing to feel strong and stable, using our locks. And then from our spinal balance, we'll go ahead and release the body back into a child's pose. Softening everything, taking a few moments to just let the body sink into the pose. A couple of deep breaths. And again, as we let the body release here for a few moments, just checking in, noticing how the body feels. Taking care of ourselves as we continue to practice. And checking in, thinking about the past once again. We'll find the arms moving forward to an extended child's pose. And let's go ahead and lift into our down dog. We'll find that down dog again with just a little pedal of the legs. And then as we start to reach both heels towards the mat here, just a little gentle press, whether the heels actually connect to the mat or not is not important here, but feeling that connection of the feet and the hands to the mat, pressing and feeling that Pada Bandha and Hasta Bandha here. Let's go ahead and gently release back down to the knees. We're going to find ourselves in our kneeling plank. And let's take a little crocodile push-up. We'll lift up and press back to child's pose. And let's flow these poses together. So the inhale brings us forward, a little exhale, lower, and inhale to lift, and an exhale to press back. So a great example of our moving meditation again here, our Rajapata. And what a great place also to focus on those locks. Feeling the center of the body strong, feeling the hands strongly connected to the mat. And as we come into child's pose this next time, we'll take another deep breath here. We're going to find ourselves coming back to our down dog. And from this down dog, let's take the right leg and lift it just a little bit. We're going to step the right foot between the hands to come into a low lunge. And just continuing our warm-up here, just a little addition today, taking a little rocking lunge forward and back. If we have any knee issues, please feel free to let some extra padding be underneath that back knee. We could also potentially keep that knee lifted and rock just a couple of times this way. So we'll find just a few more breaths warming through the hips and the hamstrings. Let this right foot relax, and we'll go ahead and step it back. We'll come back to child's pose. And then again, let's go ahead and lift it up into our down dog. A gentle lift of the left leg, and we'll step it forward into our low lunge on the second side. And again, let's go ahead and just flow a couple of times forward and back here. The option to lift the back knee or get some extra padding if necessary. Throughout our practice, taking care of our body and our mind. Practicing Bhakti Yoga. And as we're ready, let's go ahead that left foot and start to shift back. And take another deep breath in our child's pose. And then once again, let's lift into our down dog. From here, we'll soften the knees. And we're going to bring the feet to the hands to come into our forward fold. From forward fold, we'll lift halfway up into our monkey pose. From monkey pose, sitting into chair pose as we exhale. And then coming up to mountain pose, a big inhale. We'll move through some sun salutations here. Exhaling, swan dive into our forward fold. Let's go ahead and step the right foot back first. We'll let the knee release, a big inhale here. And then exhaling, we'll come into our child's pose with arms extended. Inhaling to kneeling plank. We'll lower into our crocodile, letting the hips release, inhaling, lifting into our baby cobra pose. Let's press into the hands, engaging Hula Bandha Uddiyana action. We draw up and back to child's pose. We'll step our right foot forward to our kneeling lunge. Tucking the back toes, forward fold on the exhale. Let's reverse the swan dive and lift. Sitting into chair pose, exhaling. We'll bring the body up to standing. And exhaling, let's release all the way back down. This time we'll step our left foot back, inhaling into our kneeling lunge. Exhaling, child's pose, extended arms. Let's inhale forward to kneeling plank, engaging our locks, lowering, releasing the hips, inhaling, little cobra, engaging all the center of the body as we press up and back. Let's step our left foot forward to our kneeling lunge. Tucking the toes in the back foot, exhaling, forward fold. We'll reverse the swan dive. Sitting into chair. Big inhale to lift. Releasing all the way down. We're going to step our right foot back. This time the knee stays lifted. Big inhale. Exhaling, down dog. Let's inhale into our plank pose. A little shift forward, we lower to crocodile, engaging the core, keeping those locks nice and strong. We'll lift into upward facing dog. Exhaling, tucking and reaching back to down dog. We'll step our right foot forward to a lunge. Exhaling, forward fold. Let's reverse the swan dive and lift. Sitting into chair. We'll take that same thing again on the second side. As we step back, exhaling to our down dog, feeling Hasta Bandha, Pada Bandha. We'll come into our plank pose, strong through the core, Hula Bandha Uddiyana action. We're going to lower into our crocodile, inhaling to lift, exhaling, pressing back. We'll step our left foot forward to come into our lunge. Forward fold as we exhale. Let's reverse the swan dive to lift. Sitting into chair pose. So we're going to go through 2 more sun salutations at our own pace. Finding options that work for our body. Maybe the arms lift in our lunge if that feels good for us today. But again, coming back into that Raja path, our moving meditation. And as we find ourselves finishing our sun salutations, we'll eventually come to meet in our down dog, so there's no rush to get there. And as we start to move toward that down dog to meet together, maybe our body would like a child's pose first, so feel free to take that option. Again, listening to our body, paying attention to what our body needs today, that awareness, our Hyana path, that love, our Bhakti path, our practice, our Karma path. We'll take another couple of breaths. And then when we're ready, either from that child's pose or from our downward facing dog, we're going to come into our warrior 1. We'll be in warrior 1 with our right foot forward. So we'll take the right foot and lift it. We'll step it between the hands. And we'll lift into our warrior one. First warrior one of the day. So finding that strong connection through the feet. Again, Padabandha. Drawing up through the center of the body, feeling that Uddiyana action and Mula Bandha. And then some different arm options here today in our warrior one. Let's do some bowl pose arms, cactus arms. A little squeeze between the shoulder blades, opening the front of the body. Let the arms reach once again up towards the sky. Let's go ahead and open into warrior two. From our warrior two, we're going to move a little bit and flow through a couple of poses. So let's first come from warrior two into our reverse warrior. Feel that nice opening and lengthening through the side of the body. Right shoulder relax away from the ear. We'll come through that warrior two to move into our side angle. And maybe our side angle, the left hand stays towards the sky, or maybe it reaches a little more forward. And then let's go ahead and flow those two poses. We're going to come to our reverse warrior on the inhale and to our side angle on the exhale. Just a couple of deep breaths, flowing at our own pace again, our moving meditation. We'll find one more breath cycle. Let's come to meet in our warrior two. And from warrior two, we'll move into our triangle pose. We're going to press into that right heel to straighten the front leg. A little press back with the hips or reach with the right hand to open into our triangle. Always the option to let that left hand release at any time. Big deep breath as we hold our triangle pose. And then let's go ahead and soften the front knee. We're going to release, lifting the back heel to come to a low lunge. Let's step back to our down dog. A breath or two in our down dog, we can hold, pressing the heels towards the earth. We can pedal the legs, or we can move through our half series, having a little vinyasa flow. It can be from down dog or from child's pose. Again, listening to our body, practicing whatever our body needs today, being mindful, being kind. When we're ready, we'll meet in our down dog. And we'll take our left leg and lift it towards the sky. Let's step it forward to come into our warrior one on the second side. And as we come into our warrior one, again, maybe a different arm option. So maybe it's those cactus bowl pose arms again, just to feel that same thing on the second side. Maybe we want a chest expansion here. So we can bring the palms towards one another or interlace the fingers. Finding openness through the front of the body, engagement through the back of the body. And then we'll let the arms return back towards the sky. Let's open into warrior two. And from our warrior two, we'll move into our reverse warrior, getting ready to flow those poses. A nice opening through the side of the body, holding first, nice deep breath. And then coming into our side angle. Right hand can reach towards the sky or reach a little more forward. Let's go ahead and flow those two poses. We'll find the inhale to lift us to reverse, the exhale to bring us back to side angle. Flowing with the breath, our karma path of action and our raja path of meditation. Let's find one more breath cycle. We'll meet in warrior two. And then our triangle pose toes as we press to straighten that front leg, a little reach with the hips and the fingers, holding our triangle pose, right hand to the sky or to the low back. Big deep breath, opening the front of the body. And as we release our triangle pose, we'll soften the front knee, coming into our low lunge, the back heel lifts, and step back to our down dog. Couple of deep breaths, again, pedaling the heels, pressing with the heels, or maybe flowing through our half series. Wherever we've chosen to be, as we're ready, we'll come back to meet in our down dog. And then from our down dog, we're going to take our right foot forward once again to come into a low lunge. We'll find that low lunge nice and strong. We're going to focus again on our Pada Bandha, our right foot Pada Bandha. So as we press into that right foot, we're going to then engage Mula Bandha, Uddiyana action, as we start to lift into a warrior three here. So maybe it's a three-pointed balance. Maybe we let those fingers stay resting on the mat. Maybe the hands come to the thigh, the heart. Maybe they reach out to the sides. Maybe they reach forward. But we engage our locks, feeling that strong, stable base, strong, stable core. Let's go ahead and release the fingers. Softening the front knee, we'll step that left foot back. And then from this low lunge, we're going to make a little hop switch to the other foot. So maybe we want to do that just one time today. Maybe we want to do that 3 times. Maybe 5, maybe 7, whatever the number is, as long as it's an odd one. We're going to land with that left foot forward. And then we're going to start to press into that left foot. Pada Bandha, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana action. We'll start to shift into warrior three. Again, any option along the way that works for our body. We feel that strong connection to the earth, a strong connection to our breath, full, deep Ujjayi breath. And then we'll slowly release the fingers. Let's soften that front knee and release the back foot. And maybe a couple more hop switches. Eventually, we'll land in our down dog, letting the foot step back, a couple of deep breaths. The option to hold, the option to flow. Listening to our bodies, finding that awareness, that kindness, knowledge of ourselves, and devotion. We'll find another deep breath. And then let's go ahead and find ourselves meeting in our down dog. From down dog, we'll come into our plank pose. So as we come into plank, again, starting to pay attention to those bandhas, the dynamic tension we felt from the beginning of our YogaFit training, but really noticing a little bit differently how we make those connections. Let's flow a couple of times, down dog to plank. We'll take one more breath cycle. And then from our plank, let's just let the knees gently release to the mat. We'll come to an all-fours position. And we're going to move into our kneeling side plank. So let's go ahead and let the left hand and the left foot, left knee, support us first. So as we come into our kneeling side plank, we'll lift up that left knee, and we'll open up into this kneeling side plank. Using our dynamic tension, pressing down into the outside edge of that right foot, pressing into our left hand for Hasta Bandha, and then engaging our locks. Let's engage the core muscles and feel that lift into a little bit of oblique work here. We'll let the fingers gently come towards the mat, and then we'll lift it back up. We'll take another breath. And then we're going to open up into our gate pose. We'll let the right hand release to the thigh, left arm reaching towards the sky. A nice open sensation through the side of the body. So as we are holding our gate pose, we're continuing to press down into the outside edge of that right foot, our toes toward the long end of the mat. And then let's gently release. We're going to come back to an all fours position. As we come into all fours, we'll get ready to move into this same thing on the second side. So our right hand supports, our right knee lifts off the mat. We'll set it behind us. And we'll open up into our side plank. So again, finding that engagement, that outside edge of our left foot now, strongly connected to the mat. Hasta Bandha with the right hand. We'll find Mula Bandha, Uddiyana action, and then let's squeeze and lift, working with those oblique muscles. So rather than using momentum here, we're using the strength of our dynamic tension and of our locks, our bandhas, to make that happen. Take one more breath, and then we'll move into our gate pose on the second side. We'll let the left hand come to the thigh, right hand towards the sky, and we'll feel that nice, strong opening. So just like our lateral flexion, our reverse warrior, we're letting that right shoulder release away from the ear, that strong foundation through the left foot. And then from here, let's go ahead and release. We'll come back to all fours, gently lifting that right knee to protect it. And maybe a quick little child's pose, a nice deep breath. From our child's pose, let's move forward again into our kneeling plank. We'll tuck the toes and lift the knees to a full plank. Kneeling plank is always an option. Kneeling side plank is always an option. We're going to get ready to move into a full side plank if we like today. Right hand supports. Let's go ahead and open up. So our side plank can stay the feet staggered. Maybe we want to stack. Maybe we want to lift that left leg. Maybe we want to find our big toe hold. I'm not sure today. Kind of, sort of. We'll find a nice deep breath. Again, using those bandhas to help us. And then we'll slowly bring it back down with control. And we'll find the same thing on the second side. That left hand supports. We'll open it up. Any leg option that works for us. Maybe it's the same on the second side. Maybe it's a little bit different. So again, honoring our body with our practice, being mindful. Releasing, and then giving ourselves permission to take a child's pose, letting the body soften and release. As we take a few breaths in our child's pose here, this is a great place again to check in, finding that awareness, and taking care of our body. And then from our child's pose, let's go ahead and extend the arms. We're going to come back to our down dog. From our down dog, we'll bring the feet to our hands into our forward fold. From forward fold, we're going to go ahead and lift up halfway to monkey pose. Maybe we stay in monkey, maybe we open into airplane. From either place, on an exhale, let's sit into our chair pose. And then a big inhale brings us back up to standing. We'll find mountain pose as we release the arms. A little roll in the shoulders. And from here, we're going to cool things just a little bit with some moon salutations. So as we're ready, let's go ahead and step the right foot back to the long end of the mat. Once again in our moonflower stance. And as we move through our moon salutations, we're going to start by taking the arms towards the sky. That five-pointed star. On an exhale, when we're ready, we'll sit into that moonflower plie squat, drawing the elbows towards the body, checking the knees, making sure the knees are over the ankles, moving towards the little toe. And then from our moonflower stance, we're going to come into a crescent lunge, a high lunge. Our right foot is a forward foot. So being mindful of the knees, we'll start to shift into that lunge with the right foot forward. We've got a nice deep breath here. And then from our lunge, on an exhale, we're going to move into our pyramid pose. We'll let the hands release down, maybe to rest on that front thigh. And we'll step the back foot forward, squaring the hips. Maybe the hands stay, maybe we walk them down, head and neck relaxed. A couple of deep breaths. Feeling the body sinking into the pose. And then from our pyramid pose, we'll gently soften the knee just a little bit more as we start to bring hands forward. We're going to come into our balancing half moon. Right hand under the shoulder. We'll lift the left leg. We'll open and find that balancing half moon. A couple of deep breaths. As we're ready to release, we'll take the left hand down. We're going to soften that front knee again. The left foot releases back to a low lunge. And then very gentle, very mindful of the feet, we're going to walk toes and heels around. To come back into that plie squat stance, lifting into our prayer squat. From our prayer squat, on an inhale, we bring it back up into that five-pointed star. When we're ready on an exhale, we come into our moonflower stance, checking elbows, checking knees. This time our left foot will be the front foot in our lunge. So as we're ready, being mindful of the knees, checking toes and heels, we'll lift into our lunge, left foot forward. And then from this lunge, we're going to find an exhale to bring us into our pyramid pose. We'll let the hands release as we step that back foot forward, squaring the hips, any position that our body wants in our pyramid pose today. And then from our pyramid, we'll start to move into our balancing half moon, finding an inhalation to slowly lift the body. Left hand under the left shoulder. We'll lift the right leg and open up. As we come out of our half moon, we'll soften the knee just a little bit, finding that low lunge. Walking toes and heels around, plie squat stance will come up into our prayer squat. And then let's go ahead and flow with the breath. We're going to find an inhale to lift us. And exhale to lower. We're going to come right foot forward into a lunge on an inhalation. Pyramid pose on an exhale. Balancing half moon on an inhale. Let's go ahead and exhale to release. Inhaling to walk around. Finding our prayer squat. Exhale. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling. Moonflower. Left foot is our forward foot. We come into our lunge. Exhaling. Pyramid pose. Inhaling to our balancing half moon. Exhaling to release, softening to that low lunge. Walking around. Finding our prayer squat. Exhaling to sink. And then let's go ahead and flow on our own. Our moving meditation. As the body and the breath connect. Let's find one more on each side. lift us. The exhalation to release the arms. Little toe healing. We can shake things out as we come back to the front of the mat in our mountain pose. Let's notice the breath. Let's notice the heart. Let's notice the muscles that we've worked and stretched. We'll find a big deep inhale as we're ready to reach up and overhead. Exhaling, moving into our swan dive, coming all the way into our forward fold. Gently releasing the head and neck. Softening the knees and stepping back to down dog. As we come into down dog, maybe our body chooses a child's pose instead. So being aware of what the body needs, practicing our jnana path, knowing the body, listening to the body, practicing our bhakti path as we love our body and take care of it. We'll find another breath or two, and we're going to move from our down dog back to our forward fold. Let's go ahead and reverse our swan dive, softening the knees, a big inhale to lift. And again, we'll let the arms release in our mountain pose. A little roll of the shoulders. And then from here, we're going to work a little bit with our standing balance. So we'll start by using our right foot as our foundation, and we're going to come into our standing big toe. So as we press into the right foot, let's focus on Padabandha, strong connection to the earth. We'll start to bring the left foot up in front. Maybe we keep the knee bent, and this is as far as we go today. Maybe we open just a little bit out to the side. Whatever option works for our body is exactly where we're supposed to be today. If we'd like, we can find our big toe hold, first two fingers around our big toe, capping with the thumb, and maybe we extend that left foot in front. The right arm can go wherever it needs to help us maintain that balance. And maybe we open that left leg out to the side just a bit. Obviously working multiple locks here, using those bandhas to keep us nice and strong and stable. We'll start to bring that left leg back towards the center. Maybe a little softening of the knee as we switch hands to come into our standing twist. We'll cap with the right thumb and then open that left arm, coming behind into that twist. We'll slowly bring the body back. We may take a little break, or maybe we come into our standing pigeon. We'll see how the body reacts today. Again, anywhere the body goes is exactly where it's supposed to be. Letting go of judgment, letting go of expectations, letting go of competition. We'll find another full breath cycle. And then let's go ahead and release the pose. We'll shake things out just a little bit. We'll move into these balancing poses on our second side. So our left foot, strong Padabandha, pressing into the earth. Mula Bandha, Uddiyana action, drawing up, drawing in, engage through the center. We'll start to bring the right foot away from the mat. Knee bent in front or out to the side. Maybe we find our big toe hold on this second side. But giving ourselves permission to do something different if that's what the body needs this time. As we're ready, we'll bring the right leg back to center. Softening just a little bit, maybe switching hands to come into our twist. Opening up. As we come back to center, maybe we let that right foot come down for just a moment, taking a break, or maybe we come into that standing pigeon. Again, whatever suits our body today. Full deep breath. Strong engagement of the bandhas. Hasta bandha as we press the palms together. As we're ready, we'll release. Again, shaking everything out just a little bit. We'll find a nice deep inhalation to reach arms up and overhead. Let's swan dive into our forward fold. A breath or two here, feeling grounded and stable, feeling comfortable. And then we'll go ahead and soften the knees. We're going to let the hands come to the mat. Let's step back into an all fours position. As we come into all fours, we'll let hands be under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And we're going to move just a little bit with a cat and cow, once again, with the focus on Mula Bandha and that Uddiyana action. So as we work specifically into our cat pose, we're drawing up, we're drawing in. And let's see if, as we press into Hasta Bandha, as we engage Mula Bandha and Uddiyana action, we press into the tops of the feet. And let's see if just a teeny tiny bit with that core engagement, we're able to draw the knees up and away from the mat. So we can obviously do that by just pushing into the hands, pushing into the feet, and just press the knees. We're looking for the Mula Bandha specifically to do that for us. So we draw up, we draw in, and we feel that core engagement, gently lifting the knees. So we can continue to play with this movement if that works for us today. If we'd like, we can take that same engagement of the core into our crow pose, and maybe we play with that a little bit today. Maybe it's not appropriate for our body today, and we just stay with that cat and that low knee lift. If we choose to come into our crow pose, we'll find ourselves in a little squat, maybe heels are lifted off the mat. Our fingers open nice and wide to find that strong Hasta Bandha. As we press into the hands, a little softening through the elbows, and a little gentle lean forward, and maybe we take just a little bit of that today. Maybe we just feel Mula Bandha engaged, Hasta Bandha engaged, and we just take it forward and back a couple of times. Maybe we start to come into it a little bit deeper. The soles of the feet maybe starting to reach towards one another, or the big toes reaching towards one another. Maybe one foot at a time comes off the mat. We can let it release. Maybe our crow pose, the full crow pose, is available to us today. So we can play with that however our body chooses to practice today. Again, letting go of judgment, letting go of expectations, letting go of competition. We'll find another couple of breaths playing with this pose. And when we're ready, we'll release, letting the body come maybe into a child's pose, maybe into a little stretch here to open up the hips, whatever feels like our body needs. And then from here, let's go ahead and bring ourselves back into a down dog when we're ready. So we used our standing pigeon as a nice balancing pose. Let's go ahead and come into our pigeon at this point for a good stretch. We'll take that right leg and lift towards the sky. Our right knee comes forward to the outside edge of the right wrist. And then we're going to make a little bit of space between our heel and our hip. So the right heel and the left hip, we have a little space there. We'll let that back leg release down. We can lift a teeny tiny bit here onto the fingers and feel that nice stretch and opening through the left hip. And then when we're ready, we can start to walk the body down into our pigeon pose. Maybe it's on the forearms. Maybe our fists are stacked one on top of the other and the forehead rests here. We've got a nice strong flex in the right foot, protecting the knee. And full deep breath. And then as we're ready, we'll slowly start to lift ourselves up and out of our pigeon. Using the hands, using the arms to support Hasta Bandha. We'll tuck those left toes. We'll press up and back with the right foot. We'll take our pigeon on the second side, our left leg lifts. We'll bring the knee forward into the outside of the left wrist. And create a little bit of space between that left heel and the right hip. A nice strong flex in that left foot. And let those right toes release down to the mat. And a nice deep inhale to open and stretch the hips on the right side. And then an exhale to slowly release. Noticing where our body goes on the second side compared to the first. Again, letting go of judgment, just creating an awareness. Being present in our practice. And as we're ready to come out of our pigeon pose, again, we'll use the arms, we'll use the hands to support. We'll push up, tucking the back toes to lift, and come into that down dog once again. A couple of deep breaths in our down dog, and then we'll gently release to the knees. We can find a child's pose for a couple of breaths. And then from here, we're going to work with some inversions, some potential inversions for our body, depending again on what works best for us today. So if we'd like to practice some inversions, we're going to need a little bit of wall space to do that. So we'll all do that together. We're going to make a quick change here too, so that we've got a little bit of space there at the wall. And as we come to the wall, we're going to bring the short end of our mat against the wall. And our first inversion that we may choose to practice today is going to be our handstands in an L shape. So as we are preparing to come into the pose, obviously this is not going to be a pose that works for everybody or that everybody is ready to try today. And so we always have our previous inversions from previous levels. So we could always practice legs up the wall, or we could practice our shoulder stand or our plow. We could even practice bridge pose if we'd like to have some partial inversions without coming into the inversions in our level 3 practice. So if we'd like to play with our L handstand today, we're going to set our body up so that we're close to the wall, and when we lift into our down dog, our heels are going to come into contact with the wall. So this first time, if you haven't practiced L handstand this way, you can go ahead and watch and just see how we set things up, and then have an opportunity to practice after we know all of the steps. So that way we're not trying to watch and come into it at the same time necessarily. So we find our Hasta Bandha, and then we're going to bring the body up and back into our down dog so that our heels are against the wall behind us. And we still may need to do some little adjustments. This might not be the perfect place for everybody, but we're going to be close if we come into this position to start. We're going to find that nice strong connection with the hands, and then again our locks through the center of the body. So Mula Bandha will be on action to get us started here. And just a little bit, we're also going to do a little bit of our throat lock. So we're going to have just a teeny tiny bit of Jalandhara Bandha, where we just pull the chin towards the chest just a little bit, as if we were feeling a little bit like we were holding onto a ball of yarn here, to just really lock in that energy. So as we come into our down dog with the heels on the wall, engaging our locks, we can start to walk one foot and then the other foot up the wall. So we should be in an L position, a 90-degree angle, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. We need to adjust again just a little bit. But we're going to stay in this only as long as feels comfortable, doing our best to find that 90-degree angle. And if we feel comfortable, we may then take one foot at a time away from the wall. When we're ready, we'll slowly walk the feet back down. And we're going to keep the head below the heart, coming into a child's pose, letting blood pressure equalize, Couple of deep breaths to let the body settle back in. So again, this is a nice little benefit of these online trainings, that now you have an opportunity, you can pause and you can go back and listen through that a second time to actually come into the pose now that you've seen it done once before. So we'll play with that just a little bit, and then as we're ready, we'll move on to our next option. And our next option is going to be our forearm balance. Our forearm L. So we're going to take the hands and we're going to interlace our fingers. When we interlace the fingers, we've got one little pinky that's down here by itself, and we want to make sure that we don't put a bunch of weight on that one little joint. So we're going to tuck this bottom pinky up and under so that it's even with the other pinky. We're going to leave a little bit of space in the hands, about the amount of space that we would use to hold a tennis ball. So this is similar to what we've done in level 2, where we practiced our dolphin pose and our headstand prep. So that same forearm position, and we want to make sure also that the elbows stay underneath the shoulders. So we can check by holding on to the biceps as we start to come down into our dolphin pose. So we'll set that up, we'll set up the fingers, we'll find that little bit of space in the hands, and then as we lift up, our heels again should be touching the wall. We're going to use dynamic tension. We're going to press into the hands, press into the elbows, so that we're using strength in the shoulders to slowly, just like in our handstand, walk the feet into that 90-degree angle. So as we hold, again, using our locks, finding that strength in the body. Maybe that's it for today, or maybe, again, the option to lift one foot at a time away from the wall. Continuing to press into the arms, using that strength in the shoulders, using that strength in the core. And then slowly beginning to walk the feet back down, keeping the head low in our child's pose. A couple of deep breaths. So the option to play with that a few more times. Finding whatever works for our body today. And maybe it's just our dolphin pose with the heels against the wall and one foot lifts away. That's exactly where we're supposed to be. So as we're ready to move on, we're going to have one more option for our inversions today, and that's going to be our headstand option. So we're going to set ourselves up the same way that we did for our forearm balance for our dolphin. We're going to find that distance, we're going to interlace the fingers, we're going to protect that bottom pinky, and we're going to leave that space between the hands that we would leave for a tennis ball. For this inversion, we're going to turn so that as we come into our headstand, the back of our body is toward the wall, just in case we were to go over. So we're going to find ourselves maybe in that all fours kind of position, or a kneeling dolphin position as we set ourselves up here. And then we're going to find the back of the head coming towards the hands. So there's very, very, very little, if any, weight on our head. We can even take a sheet of paper and maybe slide it underneath the head. This is going to be a support from the arms rather than putting weight into our head. So as we're ready to come into our headstand prep, we find that version of our dolphin with the back of the head coming to the hands. And then we're going to start to bend the knees and walk the feet towards the body. We bend the knees as much as we need to eventually walk the feet so far forward that the toes lift off of the mat. We can bring the knees to the chest, and then one at a time, those legs can come towards the sky. A little wobbly today. But again, we're using the arms to support. We're using Mula Bandha to help us lift. And then slowly, as we're ready, those knees come back to the chest. We come out the same way we came in. And we keep the head below the heart to let the body rest and equalize the blood pressure. So we'll take a few more moments to maybe stop the video, back up to go ahead and finish our practice of inversions. And as we have finished, once we have finished, we can come back to our mat and find whatever the body may need at this point. So a fish pose might be a great option to kind of open up through this neck and throat area. So we can feel free to take a fish option from level 2. Maybe we want to take a couple of twists for the low back. Maybe it feels a little bit tender. It could be just even, again, a little bridge or a little windshield wiper. We can take a full twist, extending one leg and coming across. So we're going to leave that for just a few more moments, moving at our own pace into whatever poses the body may still need at this point. And then as we find ourselves ready, as we find the muscles that needed that last little bit of attention, coming into a place where we can let the body relax, we'll give ourselves permission to come into our version of Shavasana today, whatever that may be. And as we start to settle in, we'll take a few moments again to check in with the body. Paying attention to the breath. And beginning to deepen the breath. As we let the body continue to release into this relaxation pose, we may also take a few moments to soften the places that still need a little bit of attention. So maybe that's in the jaw. Maybe we start to create some space between the upper and the lower teeth. Maybe we swallow once or twice to relax the throat and the neck. Maybe a little tiny wiggle of our fingers and our toes as they soften. Allowing the body to feel heavy, sinking into the mat, finding full relaxation. Let's begin to deepen our breath. We'll bring some movement back into the body. Smaller movements at first. And make them a little bit larger. We'll take our time. When we're ready, we'll slowly begin to roll over to one side, letting the head relax, letting the eyes stay closed. And then from here, as we're ready, we'll use the arms to help support us as we come back to a seated position, letting our head be the last part of the body to come back. And as we find ourselves in our seated position to complete our practice today, we'll find ourselves balanced from right to left. We'll let the arms reach up and overhead, bringing in positive energy. Letting the hands come to meet one another and come to rest at the heart center. Taking a moment to thank ourselves. To thank ourselves for giving this gift of this practice. To thank ourselves for being kind. And to thank ourselves for then being able to share this gift with others. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your practice with me today. And namaste.